Course complaints, blurry coverage, no coverage, drama from the win, $15 hot dogs, and that's only the start. What's up, Disgenerates? It's the Disc Golf World. I'm Jefferson, and alongside me as always, the one with all the holes in his game, Swiss Cheese, recapping everything you need to know from the World Championships. Actually, if you want to know literally everything, check out the full playlist for the daily round recaps. But first, I gotta thank our Patreon and YouTube members, because without you guys, this wouldn't have been possible. Before we jump into the recap, we got a few things we gotta cover. I understand Simon Lizotte is everyone's favorite, but I didn't expect DGN to also jump on the Pixel train. At least that's what the fans have been saying on social media. And let me tell you what, people were more pissed over that than the caddies eating all the damn bratwursts. I'm looking at you, Justin. But seriously, I saw more hate online than our comment section when we mentioned Foundation didn't talk about FPO once in their recaps. That's not us being negative. We call out all the bullshit in disc golf, and neglecting to talk about the women feels dirty, especially when you have them come on your show. Just pointing out the obvious. Kind of like the people complaining about not being able to see the coverage through the horrible quality. Doesn't get better when during round 3 it went down entirely for a moment, adding fuel to the fire of the crowd talking down on DGN. Thankfully, it would be better at Ivy Hill. Unfortunately, that course wouldn't be a favorite among players. As Drew Gibson broke the silence making this post about the PDGA investing in a real course designer, as Nate Heinold is a self-proclaimed not top designer. Yes, that's a quote. So I agree it feels weird to let him design the course that the most prestigious event will be played on. And the complaints didn't start during the event. Actually, one of the holes was changed just a few days prior to the start of the tournament. That being hole 6. Sure, it was just moving the OB, but still. Owen Scoggins was critical of hole 13 in particular and had this to say.
Some of the holes should be changed to be better for at least the top 50 of us. I'm not talking about like a lot of holes, I'm talking about one hole, especially hole 13. I feel like you have to throw like pretty much like 350 to make the island. I think that one pretty much a little bit ridiculous for me. I feel like I just have to throw the disc in front of me and then walk to the drop zone.
Yeah.
Why I'm not even throw when I'm not even gonna make it? Just think about like we have 90 women. We not make the course just only top 15 or top 10 in the world. Like you need to think about top 50%, to be fair.
When asked about the hole, this is how Nate Heinold responded.
Not worried about hole 13. If anybody does that, then, I mean, they're not going to be competing for a world title is what I would say. My entire design philosophy has always been to punish bad shots and reward good shots. And on a golf course, it's impossible to do without out of bounds, to be honest. We have to have that. I don't have a lot of trees here. I have elevation and I have the out of bounds. And I think we use that effectively to create a very challenging course, but I do think it's very fair.
Confused how someone who claims to not be amazing at course design will stand his ground when critiqued. This wouldn't be the only hole that would be highly criticized, as Haley King made this post, as well as numerous comments told to us by pros. Somehow, we turned into a complaint box, as I guess we're the voice for the voiceless, but damn guys, I gotta eat being the asshole on the chin for you every week. One of the other holes complained about a lot was 14, as Ezra Robinson made a post claiming it was the worst hole he'd ever played. Scott Stokely, on the other hand, made a post discussing his thoughts on the matter.
The rocks and the slope are completely surrounding the basket in a way that a basket hit, basically you want to either airball or make it, because if you hit anything and it doesn't go in or you get a spit out, there's a good chance you have the random roll away. And I think that element is unfair, right? It's not unfair if you hit the rocks below the basket on a steep angle and it rolls away, that throw better.
Feels like we could have just moved the hole to a different spot and avoid the rocks from being in play for missed putts, because the slope is punishing enough. And if they hit the rocks on a short approach, I would be okay with that roll away. Although, we can do without the OB. I seriously don't think you could fit any more rope on this course. Drew even went on to share a text message from a pro saying it was the worst course they had ever played. But when you don't show the name, kinda pointless. I do want to point out that the event was run very smoothly and people had an absolute blast. I'm not at all saying it was bad. But in the same breath, I would call anyone insane if they think there can't be massive improvements for the next year. Which is where I'm hoping all that extra VIP money is going, Because when the purse stays the same and you have record attendance with a 3-tiered ticket system with different pricing and access, which don't tell me you use all that for Costco snacks, because there was over 3,000 spectators. The money's got to be going somewhere, but that's not for me to speculate. Plus, I heard rope was expensive, and everyone knows that's how you make a championship level course.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
After most fans were exhausted with the back-and-forth action between Evelina Salonen and Holland Hanley, whose nerves wreaked havoc on FPO's moving day action, the emotional roller coaster of lead change after lead change due to errant throws or missed putts was so mentally draining on the two and spectators following along. All of yesterday's actions left fans not knowing what to expect on the final day, but buckled themselves in for an unexpected bumpy ride. Bumpy is an understatement, because many would never expect us to survive a third player to enter the race, 28 OB strokes, 2 hazard throws, a costly 3-putt in the circle, 10 C1 putt misses, not all Evelina, but the majority, insane rollaways, numerous lead changes, and of course, 14 or Heinholz Hill. And no, that player wasn't Tatar. I told you guys to let that go in yesterday's video. But Kat Mertz did come out as aggressive as her golf cart driving, with 2 birdies to kick off her round. Despite her starting off 5 strokes down, closed the gap and would have a solo lead late into the round at one point. She would start the front half 5 down and had a share of the lead after both Evelina and Holland would struggle, as they would be sitting at 2 and 1 over in the same span. The back half would be wild, and things got worse for Evelina after a 3-putt on 12, which would result in a double bogey. At that point, she would be 4 strokes back off a leader Cat, 2 strokes off a Hanley, with only 6 holes to play. And credit needs to go to James Proctor here, not only for caddying for Salonen up and down those hills with a round remaining while being on third card later that day, but also for helping Evelina throughout the moment. Evelina has found success with James on the bag, as Evelina has credited him keeping her relaxed by telling jokes. Without him there, I'm not sure she would recover, and that just might have been that something that she had been missing for the entire Worlds up to that point, while she carried her own bag. She would start a birdie run the very next hole with a big putt in Evelina standards on 13, and most importantly, would only 2-putt from inside the circle in celebration on 18 for the remainder of the round. Would watch Holland have a bad OB on her upshot on 14 and an even worse rollaway on the now infamous Heinhold Hill. The nephew, I, and players knew and warned you that 14's unnecessary pin location would have an impact on World's action. And it began with Holland earlier that day, who would be out of it from there, but sealed it with another rollaway on a putt the very next hole. She would finish 8 over on the round and dropped her all the way off the podium as Kristen Tatar moved into that position. Evelina would get another bird after placing her approach in the bullseye after Kat went OB earlier. That 2-stroke swing would give Evelina the lead a mere 3 holes after that 3-putt double bogey, where she ended up going 4 down to Kat. For Kat, the bleeding didn't stop, as she would bogey on every hole after, with 2 bogeys as Evelina cruised to a victory. I know many of you are going to proclaim Evelina was handed this victory, but her talents off the tee are leaps and bounds above all others in the field, and that includes everyone's favorite Tatar. The stats back it up, not only leading in nearly every driving category, but also led with over 41 strokes gained tee to green over the entire tournament. Only 13 strokes ahead of Kat, who sat in second place. And most importantly, the least amount of OB strokes on the lead card on the final day and over the entire tournament. Evelina may not dominate during her wins, and for some it just might be frustrating, but she is putting together an incredible season that should not go unnoticed. She just added her second major, which if we're honest, should have been her third had she not booted the European Open. Took a second at another one, and has 2 Elite Series wins also. She has to be your player of the year out of the FPO, and all that, while being the 40th best putter on tour.
Over on the MPO side, Isaac would go into the final round with a 3-stroke lead. It didn't take him long to get scoring, as he started off birding the first 2 holes. Nicholas Antela would do the same to stay close. Unfortunately for him, on hole 4, he would land in the hazard on his approach and missed a C1 putt, resulting in a bogey. But worse, a 2-stroke swing for Isaac, now with a 5-stroke lead and flashbacks from last year, I'm sure. Just like then, he continued to press after his layup on 5 with 3 straight birdies. That would come to an end after his drive went OB on hole 9 for a bogey, which would complete another 2-stroke swing, this time in Nicklaus's favor. Antelo would park hole 10 for the birdie, while Isaac settled for the par as he went OB again. After that stretch, he would regain his 3-stroke lead, now headed into everyone's favorite hole. Of course I'm talking about 14 and Heinolds Hill. Isaac continued with his layup play and got lucky with the no roll, but it still gave Nicklaus an opportunity from just outside the circle to snag a stroke back, and with what looked to be a nearly perfect putt, would not only spit out, but roll all the way down the hill. If you didn't already hate that hole, this is all you need to see, as Antelo would go from only being back 2 to now being back 4. And I really don't want to be that guy, but if he was still able to get the birdie and stroke back on 15, then he would head to 16 with a completely different mindset. One that possibly gives him the adrenaline needed to pump the roller to the other side. However, we don't live in that world. Instead, Isaac would play safe yet again and take another stroke after Antelo couldn't fight past the OB. According to lots of aggressive under-the-breath mumbling from the top pros, hole 17 is stupid. So we'll just ignore those 2 bogeys and head on over to 18. And hey, look at that product placement. But yeah, Isaac walked that shit in to become back-to-back world champ. Who do you think Prodigy's gonna cut to afford his win bonus? And for all you thinking somehow they make it right and he stays, no chance. Plus, you're stupid to even think that. Nicklaus would take yet another second place as he only needs a runner-up at the European Open for the Grand Slam. So that's one way to think about it. Eagle McMahon made a push on the final day with an 8 under to land himself on the podium. For all you commenting he's washed, can we take a breather now? Luke Taylor impressed the world this weekend, closing out with the 4th place, smashing big putts from all over. If he's not on your watch list, I'm giving you until next week before I start calling the bandwagon. Tied at 4th was Calvin Heimberg after his 4 down, which just adds fuel to the no major crowd that loves to be heard. Now for some weekend quick hitters. If you didn't hear the rumor of it costing upwards of $20,000 to vend at this year's Fly Mart, now you did. And if that sounds crazy, it's because it is. Instead, the Alt Mart was created by OTB and some other brands, including the homie at Happy with Par. I'll let them explain what went down.
When it became kind of difficult or a little bit prohibitive to vend at the actual event, I just started to tap into some of my resources here in Virginia. I'm excited to facilitate something for the players because I know it was difficult for some of the players. They were looking at like a fee of maybe $300 to vend. Players allowed to vend for free. I just basically had first come, first serve. We love just making it easy for the players to sell their stuff because the players bring the fans.
This is why I love disc golf. And I know you gotta make money, sure. But when all USDGC asks is 10% of all the revenue at the end, why would anyone waste their money spending 5 times more than they did last year at Worlds? In sadder news, here's the situation currently going down in New London.
Some $3 million grant has passed from the state. The money's been given. I don't know where it is in Bedford and all that stuff, but I know that the back 7 holes are pretty much what's going to be flattened and turned into plots for businesses to come in.
Hey, you know that dog with the goggles you see everywhere on coverage? Turns out Ajax is a big Disc Golf World fan, in case you needed a reason to smack that subscribe button. Not as cool as getting a shout out from Texas Roadhouse, but still worth it.
Texas Roadhouse! I have a very special announcement. With me is Evelina, and she became a world champion in disc golf. Let's give her a hand!
When you throw over a house, you gotta mention. So there you go, AB. You're a damn madman. And that's everything you need to know from the World Championships. Shout out to everyone who we talked to this weekend. It was dope meeting all the fans. Hopefully you enjoyed the daily round recaps, because those were a bitch to make, but worth every second. And don't worry, we're finding a way to Finland next year. But for now, I'm looking for a place, or at least a driveway to stay at for D-Glow, because it's supposed to be hotter than hell, and I don't like sweating while I sleep in the minivan.
Don't go, please.